Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Formula One. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my sister, Jack.
Hi, everybody.
And I, right off the bat, apologize for my robotic voice last week. Turns out you can't just use your AirPods mic to record a podcast when you're traveling. So I am back home. We have mics now.
And we bought an extra mic to
Yes.
have at our parents' house, which
Yeah.
I'm now using.
So yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Jack and I have
the
have
robotic
switched
voice.
spots. Yeah, so Jack is in our parents' house at the moment. That's where I was last week. Um, but we now have a mic there, which was
Yeah.
a fantastic decision. Thank you, Jack, for taking the initiative on that. I was like, it'll be fine. No, narrator, it wasn't. It was not fine.
Yeah, looking back on it, you live and you learn. It's funny because
Yeah,
that's like our longest episode I think we've ever recorded,
yeah, and I'm
and
just
it's
I'm just like the whole time.
yeah, robotic is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, but we're back. We don't sound like robots this time.
No
Um,
robotics.
And we had the final race of the 2023 season this past weekend.
Yeah, sad, but also kinda grateful.
Yeah, it's finally over.
It's
Um,
over, we're done with the W14,
Finally.
RIP,
Bye
bye-bye.
to the W14, bye to the SF23. We won't miss you. Goodbye to the
No.
RB19, which is a historical car.
Yeah, will go down in history for sure.
Yeah. And lots of news. Do you want to jump into news first, then we'll get into the race?
Yeah, we should totally do news first. Crazy amount of news that came. First one being Drive to Survive got a release date, season
Yes.
6,
February.
February. What do you think they're gonna anything that comes off the top of your head that you're like, "Oh, they're totally gonna focus on this?"
The episode where they'll cover Daniel's return and Nick DeVries'
Mm,
firing is one that I'm very interested to see how they cover. I think the coverage on that episode, I'm expecting it to be a lot similar to the way that F1 and Red Bull and AlphaTauri handled it, which was very much like Daniel is back, and then like no one really talked much about Nick DeVries,
yeah.
which is sad. So I
Yeah,
am curious to see if they delve into the Nick DeVries side of things at all.
that will be interesting. I also do wonder, like, how they're gonna the Mercedes this year, they obviously struggled. Um, there was some conflict between Lewis and George,
Mhm.
but it's very, very minor, so I'm just wondering how much they're going to dramatize this season.
Oh yeah, when they where did they collide? Was that Hungary?
Was it good?
Well, Qatar
Well,
they
they collided
crashed
a
lap
few times.
one, but they collided
Yeah.
during like free practice or quali or something. And yeah, all the tweets were like, "Oh, Drive to Survive." It's like that, that clip where it's like, "All right, people, let's go, go, go!" It's like Drive to Survive,
Go.
seeing
Yeah.
George and Lewis. We talked about it though, how yeah, I think we should place bets closer to when it announces on how they're going to spin things, because we already placed the bet that we think they're going to try to make George and Lewis Mercedes too,
Yeah. Brocades 2.0, even though that's not
which
it
is
at
not it.
all.
It's not
It's
it.
just not I don't think
Yeah.
anyone there could be a Brocades 2.0. It was so specific. I also would be really interested how they cover, like, McLaren's start to how they finished. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, it will just be interesting overall, like, last year in season 5, they didn't cover Brazil at all. They didn't cover Georgia's
Yeah.
first win, like, they didn't cover it at all.
And
So
then
it'll
they
be
like
also
mentioned
interesting to see what they leave out.
Silverstone so many times, which yes, Silverstone, like with Joe's crash and Carlos's win,
Yeah.
was a big race, but we didn't need to talk about every episode for the entire season. There were other big moments.
Yeah. That was in every episode. They'll definitely talk about guitar, they have to.
Yeah.
The heat
I
and how it really hurt a lot of the guys. I would be really
Yeah.
surprised if they that would be crazy if they didn't.
I think they'll obviously touch on Aston Martin's performance early in the season. I'm curious
Mm,
to see how that carries through, as we know they did kind of fall off the pace a bit. Um, and I wonder if they will address the Checo rumors.
oh,
Because those were really a lot of that Checo stuff has been more social media and more like
yeah,
news and reporters have been saying things, but nothing's quite come directly besides like Helmet saying horrible things um,
yeah.
from Red Bull. So I wonder if they'll even touch on kind of that whole side of it where everyone was like, Checo's going to lose his seat.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting. We'll have to do, you know how like everybody like you made race predictions for
Yeah.
2023? We'll have to do a Drive to Survive prediction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Uh,
watch it and then we can go back.
yeah, cursed predictions. And speaking of cursed things, did you hear what the president of the FIA claimed he may do?
Yes, I did.
Bring
Um,
back Mr. Michael Massey is what he said he would do if there was a need.
yeah. He really it was like a weird like way of just of being like, "Oh, he might come back because it
It was almost
was
a
not
threat. I
a
was like, is this a threat?
yeah. Are you threatening us? Do not even try.
Yeah.
It was so weird,
And
the
if
way
you're listening and
he
and
was
you
saying it.
don't know who Michael Massey is, who we're talking about, Michael Massey was he race director?
Yeah,
I
I believe
believe race
so.
director of Abu Dhabi 2021, which, as we all know, was a very is still a very highly contested race because of his decision to allow the cars to unlap themselves, then leading to Max Verstappen's first world championship. A lot of people still claiming that Lewis was robbed. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I think everybody has. But yeah, Michael Massey then left the sport after that because people basically ran him out of the sport.
Yeah, basically, the threats were insane, and he was like, "I gotta go." So it would
Yeah.
be really interesting to see him come back.
Yeah.
I would love to know what Lewis thinks about
I mean, the thing is,
his name
it's
being thrown
not,
out there.
I don't think it like it wasn't just him. Like he was just the
Yeah,
sacrificial lamb for this decision that was made.
that's a
So
good point.
I don't, hey, if there's a need for Michael Massey, as said, I don't know what he specifically brings to the table. Not super familiar with him beyond
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi 2021. Then whatever. I think he would have a very hard time. He went to one of the races this year, and it was like all everybody could talk about. I
Oh, really?
think he went to Australia or something, somewhere random.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't
Um,
remember that, but yeah, it did sound kind of like a threat.
yeah, he was like, You all behave, or I'll bring back Michael." It's like, okay, please.
He wouldn't survive us this time around, let's be honest.
Oh God, no. F1 Twitter.
No way. No way.
Another one that came out, lots of news.
So much
McLaren
news.
and Monster are now partnered for 2024 and beyond.
Did you see Red Bull's social media? Red Bull's social media today was on point between the Spotify Wrapped and um, just other things, including this one. They had Lando drinking a Red Bull.
Yeah,
It was
that's
so
funny.
good. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny. Also, just a very interesting I didn't know that Monster and Mercedes, their contract was up.
Yeah. And I mean, they've been a sponsor for Mercedes for a long time. They'll also continue to sponsor Lewis directly, which I find
Mhm.
interesting. Um, I don't feel that this bodes well for Mercedes losing a pretty major sponsor. I mean, monsters on all of their hats, on all of their. I know the hats specifically because when when we bought Alex, our brother-in-law's gift last year, did we get him a hat? We got him a hat, and
Yeah.
I was like, do all of them have this giant monster logo on them? They all have it.
They all
So
had it. It's on their
race
race
suit.
suits quite a
Yeah.
bit, big
So,
and little small ones. So, yeah, that would be interesting. I would also be interested to see who they bring in.
yeah. Maybe Celsius.
Celsius,
Celsius is a
maybe.
different if you have you ever had a Celsius?
No, because I heard that it's not good for your heart.
Different breed of caffeinated drink.
Really?
It makes me like feel like I'm like not real. Like, you know, when you like the limitless pill is what I equate a Celsius to. I drank one once and I was like, this is not normal. Like, what is in this?
That's hilarious. The limitless pill.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll be interested to see also how everything changes for McLaren, like how big of a partnership they have with
Yeah.
them.
I want them so badly. I don't think this will happen because they're not like a title sponsor or anything. I want them to do a special monster livery. That would be
Oh, that would be
so
I
sick.
was just thinking that. That would be so sick.
Yeah. So we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't they've done an OKX special livery
Mhm.
2 years in a row now, I believe. And they
Well,
did
because
other ones.
their main leading sponsor in some countries, you can't promote them because it's,
Yeah,
tobacco or vaping or something, or I don't really
is
know.
that it's called Velo, right? Because then in some
Yeah.
countries they just change it to say love.
Some of them, they can just change it to be love. A lot of countries, they just have to add, like, the disclaimer of, like, tobacco usage. But I think it was, like, Qatar. I think that's when they had, like, or no, maybe it was Singapore, maybe it was both. When they did, like, the blackout
Singapore, they
livery.
had the
They're the
blackout.
yeah,
Okay.
so that was the OKX one. Um,
They
yeah,
had a
because there's
lot of
just some
special
countries you
liveries
can't.
this year, though.
Yeah, it was sick. I loved the blackout one. We performed the best in the blackout one.
Other news related to Mr. Lewis Hamilton, though. So he'll be retaining his monster sponsorship, even though the team won't be. And also, Christian was like being messy AF.
So, so messy. Like, also, it was not brought up at all, and he was just like, "Yeah, Lewis and his team have been reaching out to me, like, a lot." It's
So
like
yeah, he claimed like out of nowhere that apparently he said that Lewis's team called him to talk seats earlier this
yeah.
year. Um, and my initial reaction to this was I just thought it was like bargaining. Like he had a
Mm.
contract negotiation going on. I was like, oh, if they can get an offer with a really high number from Red Bull, I don't think he was ever actually going to Red Bull. That was my
No, because then
reaction.
he'd have to be racing partners with Max, and it just wouldn't work.
It just wouldn't work. But I don't think it was ever that. But then so I just assumed, yes, someone probably did reach out to try to get a number so that they could negotiate for a higher number for Mercedes. But then Lewis was like, no, that none of that ever happened.
Yeah.
Like
And
he's
then
like,
did you see his story? He was like, "Oh, yeah, and I got my old phone back the other day and charged it up, and I had a voicemail from Christian saying we should get dinner or something." It's like, "Okay, this is just a very elaborate story." It's
like,
crazy.
why are you lying in a way that is so easy to get you caught?
So, but, like, why would you lie? Period.
Right.
And then also, why bring this up now? It doesn't make sense to bring this up now.
Okay, listen, love a messy girl. So kind of here for it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm just like, why now? Contract negotiate like Lewis and George both had their contract extension. What was that over summer break? Like a while ago.
Mm,
So
yeah.
why are you all of a sudden like talking about this?
Christian's always cooking, we've talked about this. Christian is always cooking something. There is something happening.
Yeah, he's a
There has
mastermind.
to be.
So
He
there's
is.
something going on. He
There's
wouldn't just
something
say
going on.
that. We'll
Or,
see.
like, maybe he wanted more press. Maybe his manager's like, "We need you out in some headlines. Go say something."
Yeah. I wonder
Well, I
if
don't
something
know.
else came out that we all missed because of this. I wonder if there was something that he was trying to get us to ignore.
I can't really think of anything. Maybe. Well, maybe we'll have to do a deep dive. We can check
Yeah,
in
I don't know.
next
I mean,
episode.
yeah, I don't think so, but we'll see. We're tinfoil hatting. We didn't even announce tinfoil
This is
hat
a
timing.
bit,
Now we're
yeah.
tinfoil hatting.
This is a we're tinfoil hat timing for
uh,
sure.
and then more happier news. Mr. Teo Porcher wins the F2 championship in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
A fight to the end with Frederick Vesti.
Yes. I saw a lot of social media stuff. Very balanced.
Mhm.
Loved that he won. Sad for
Except
Frederick
for Fred.
Vesti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very exciting. Congratulations to him. He is I believe it's now called Sauber reserve. So I would assume he'll be doing that full time. I don't know if they've announced what he'll be doing next year yet, but and then we had some more announcements for the F1 Academy.
Yay! This
So
made me so happy.
it's so exciting. So Aston Martin announced that Tina Houseman will be their driver and Tina Block, an American, will be
Yes.
Williams's driver. So exciting.
Williams are just collecting the Americans.
Yeah.
Collecting
It's
Americans.
I support it. I support it. James Vowles, you know. Um speaking of
We
the
love it.
other American at Williams though, we don't have any word on Logan's seat extension. It's
A
the
lot of
last seat.
rumors.
And based on what James Vowles said, which did you see? He said they're not in a position to announce his seat yet, that he will always be a part of the Williams Academy, but that he has to look at the data more before a
Yeah.
decision is made. That makes me think we are not
Yeah.
getting Logie Bear.
Really?
He's a team principal. I mean, he's been around all season. What in the data do you have to look at now? He
Yeah.
knows the data.
Because he said that, they've all talked over what he needs to do at the end of the season.
Mhm. And I think his, which we'll get to in a second when we talk about the race, but his quality performance, I don't think helped too much here.
Yeah. And if you look at was it the Deconstructors Championship? He is the 2023
He
champion of
caused
that.
I think a just under $4.5 million in damage.
Yeah, really bad. Which we've talked about before. Williams just can't afford to
Yeah.
spend that money. They're a small team. They're trying to grow, and you can't be using that money
I really think
when
the
you need a
delay is
new.
yeah. The delay is coming from though, like who else goes in that seat?
Yeah, because Liam is sticking with Red Bull.
Yeah, he's contracted. So unless they
Yeah.
can reach an agreement with Red Bull,
And
but
then it would just have to be what, another F2 driver that you'd have to pull up?
yeah, I mean, there's Felipe Drugovich, Teo Porcher, Frederick Vesti, you know, there are drivers, but they'd all be rookies.
Yeah. So you'd
So you run
bring
the same risk.
yeah. Felipe did well um in his practice session, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about, but I feel like he would be like really the only option, and I feel like he would be holding out for a different team.
Yeah, I mean, he's also, already been announced that he's continuing to be a reserve with Aston for next year. So then
Yeah.
again, that gets into contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Um, I don't know how willing Aston would be to give up having him as a reserve, because if he's driving in races, obviously he can't just switch.
Yeah.
It's not. Um, so I don't know. I just don't think this is not making me think they're working out the terms of his contract. This is making me think they're trying to figure out who else but there's not really like an option, you know? I like same situation as or similar situation last year with Mick Schumacher and Haas,
Yeah.
where Mick Schumacher was causing a lot of damage. I will never forgive Gunther for what he did
No, yeah, that made me not a Haas fan anymore, honestly.
ever.
Yeah.
But they had Nico Hulkenberg available, who is this
Mm.
experienced older driver who they knew could kind of like hop in and probably get going.
Yeah, they had
We don't have
options.
much of that anymore.
No, because you would, yeah, like you said, you'd just be running a risk with another rookie, but there have been, I mean, Liam coming in and performing as well as he did, I feel like is pretty unheard of, and then, well, there's Oscar, who did exceptionally well this year. Again, you just don't know.
Right. So we will see. I am holding out hope that we will have Mr. America back,
Our Captain America
our
back on the
Captain
grid.
America. Um, but I don't know. I mean, this is, remember when we talked about seats and I was like, I feel like my opinion changes every day.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong today. I hope my opinion today that I have right now is wrong.
yeah. I hope so too. I hope your opinion is wrong. I'd like to see him get another chance, but this is another reason why, you said you'd be a bad principal. I would also be a bad principal because I would want it to
Yeah.
give everyone chances. And then I would get really pissed off at one race and then they'd be gone.
Oh, yeah. There
Or
would
the
be no
person.
looking at data for me. I'd be like, if I like you and I think you're trying, you get to stay.
Yeah. But if we don't get good vibes off each other, bye-bye.
You have to
Yeah,
go now.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah.
Stinks
So
that there's still no information, but we'll see.
we just got to sit and wait. I mean, got nothing else going on. It's break. So
Yeah,
just sit there
just
and refresh the Williams Twitter.
exactly. Yeah.
But shall we get into the race finally?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So we had a final race of the 2023 season. Started off with a lot of fun because there were plenty of rookies taking part in FP1. If you're not familiar, there is an FIA policy where each car, so all 20 cars, has to be replaced with a rookie for one session throughout the season. So we had 11 for FP1 this past weekend. We had Felipe Drugovich in Aston Martin, Robert Schwartzman for Ferrari, Frederick Vesti for Mercedes, Jack Doohan for Alpine, Teo Porcher for Alfa Romeo, Pato Award, Jack's favorite,
Love Pato.
for McLaren, Jake Dennis for Red Bull in one of the Red Bulls, Isaac Hajar in the other Red Bull, Zach O'Sullivan in the Williams, and Ollie Bierman in the Haas.
A
What a
lot.
roster.
It was so fun to watch all of them, honestly.
Yeah. And they all performed pretty solidly, especially Felipe, which, like you mentioned, he was P2
Mhm.
behind George. George had a 126.072. Felipe had a 126.360.
Jeez.
Not bad. And I know
Not
we know
bad.
it's practice, but
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Be it is exciting, and it just shows the who we can see for, like, years to come on the grid. It's really exciting to kind of see who to look out for,
Yeah.
because you love your 20 boys that are on the grid, but you know that they can't stay forever.
Yeah, so it's exciting to see, like it's also exciting to think whenever I watch one of these where there's like even just one rookie, because throughout the season there have been times where there's been like one or two. I'm always like, I wonder if I'll like in a few years if they'll be driving and I'll be like, I remember their first FP1.
You'll be that old lady. Be like,
Oh yeah.
"I remember." Wait,
Be
or
like,
what is it, the SpongeBob quote? "I lost something once."
I lost something once. Yeah. We'll be in their interview. I'll be in the background just being like, I remember. when you spun in FP1 in Austin.
Look at you now, sweetie.
Look at you now.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch. Um, big fan, big fan of that policy. Big
Yeah.
fan.
I love that. And I think 2 is a kind of a perfect number. I will say a hilarious loophole is like Oscar, Logan, and who are the other Nick DeVries. Was that the only 3 rookies this year? But they loophole didn't have to have their car do it because their first FP1 counted for it.
That makes sense. They
So
need it. They need it.
yeah, they need the extra time.
Yeah.
But then we moved on to FP2 and there was a big crash from Carlos in FP2.
Yeah.
Scary one.
Yeah. Not
Which
good.
did raise some concern. At least Jack and I talked about it briefly. I don't think it was ever really a concern beyond maybe us, but with what Fred had said about the cost cap and the cost associated with Carlos hitting the loose drain in Vegas, we both were like, oh my God. Because Fred had said, if we have another one of these, we might not be able to race in Abu Dhabi, just like cost cap wise.
Yeah.
That ended up being fine. That was more
Ended
just
up being
us
fine.
catastrophizing.
Yes. We'll talk about it in our therapy session. The catastrophizing. Yeah. Poor Carlos, honestly, is
Rough
the
weekend.
drain last weekend, this weekend.
Which we'll get, yeah. We'll get into, I guess, right now. But when quali started, Carlos was just struggling for pace. I don't know if it was set up, he had reduced practice time, right? With the crash and everything, but it was out in Q1.
Yeah.
Lewis was out in Q2, also struggling for pace.
Yeah. It was odd.
Weird. And then Logan, as we'd mentioned before, he had some fantastic lap times, but both laps he did were deleted for track limits.
Yeah. Um, I feel Logan's crushed me, honestly.
Did you see he did an
Especially
interview where he said that he feels like ostracized as an American on the grid?
yeah,
I was like, no one be mean to him.
no one. Leave him alone. Um, yeah, no, I because he put out incredible times. I remember one of them that we saw, I think it was in I can't remember if it was when did he get out? It was Q1.
Q1.
So he would have been 4th, but he went over in turn 1. You just I mean, all those boys have made the mistakes of track limits, and everyone has been very vocal about how they don't like the track limit crackdown that's been going on this season, so I do wonder how that's going to change going into next year.
I
Um,
also feel like the track limit crackdown only affected people that I like,
yeah, that
which
is
is
what it
almost
felt like.
everyone on the grid, but still so
Yeah,
annoying.
it was just a lot. It was a lot. Made things interesting in Singapore, that's for sure, but it just at what point can you just, like, give a little, please?
Like, yeah. Can we just calm down? Just
Because it was not like this last year.
no. I don't like it. It's just also it's like it's it reminds me of which I had completely forgotten about until we were watching the race with dad, the Abu
Mhm.
Dhabi race. When he was like, whatever happened to when they were all getting penalties for not parking in the grid spots correctly? Remember there was
Yeah.
it was first and second race of this season. There were penalties. Remember Esteban had that whole thing
Yeah.
for not parking in the grid spots correctly. And then that seemed to somehow get resolved.
Yeah, there needs to be some form of resolution because they can't keep doing this.
Yeah. It just gets to a point where it's like this is excessive and annoying.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is because, like you said, it only affects people that I like. Um, but it is again, that's most of the grid. That's like 90. I mean, I do like everybody. So yeah, it's the whole grid. That affects the whole grid and it's
Yeah.
annoying. And I don't know, crack down on Max and Checo, that's fine, but leave our Williams boys alone when they're fighting for their lives. Like,
Yeah, like
you
if
know,
you're gonna crack down on people that will make things more interesting. Don't crack down on poor little Logan who's just trying to get out of Q1.
who's just trying to get out of Q1, who's just trying to get a spot for next year.
Oh my god, have to move on.
We
Breathe, Jamie.
we gotta,
Um,
yeah, because this could be a whole thing.
so qualifying resulted in Max on pole, Charles P2, and Oscar Piastri P3.
Yes.
Way to go, Oscar. And so heading into the race, obviously constructors and drivers first place was wrapped up many moons ago.
Mhm.
Um, but there were still a lot of battles kind of happening up and down the grid. So Mercedes and Ferrari battling for P2 in the constructors, AlphaTauri and Williams battling for P7, and then Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc, and Norris were all in the fight for P4 in the drivers' championship.
Mhm.
So there's lots going on, lots happening.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc in an interview basically was like, I will sacrifice my life for P2 in the constructors championship. It's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
Got very intense.
Yeah. The radios
Yeah. Yeah.
were really interesting.
Um, so race begins. First and main thing, and really just the thing that I need to talk about right away. Yuki led this race.
Yuki led this race.
Yes.
Yuki! He led the race.
I was like, I stop the race. Stop the race. It's over.
Red flag it. It's done. We're happy. This is the perfect ending for us
Like,
all.
okay, you can end it now. I was like, yeah, for like being a Ferrari fan and being a Carlos and Charles fan, I want them to have good races, but I would be okay with it ending right now. I don't really even care.
Yeah.
um, alas, that did not last, but he did have a fantastic race, finished P8.
Driver of the day.
Driver of the day.
I voted for him.
Yuki. I voted Carlos.
We know. We vote for.
um, Checo did have contact with Lando, which Lando seemed very upset about, which kind of accurate. I don't know. He was like, I expected it from him. I was like, okay, sassy.
Sassy Lando has been around this season, and
Like, all right. It's not
it's like,
start beef.
yeah, it was like really intense. It was like Lando. Okay.
But resulting from this contact, Checo had a 5-second penalty. And towards the end of the race, Max obviously was in first, of course. Charles was in P2, and Checo was behind him in P3, then George behind Checo. And Charles, being his own strategist, was
As
like,
in me too on Ferrari.
yeah, I was like, how does your brain compute things while you're driving this fast? I'll never get it.
That doesn't make sense.
But he got on the radio and was basically like, I'm going to slow down and let Checo by to try to build the gap between him and George so that we can try to secure P2 in the constructors. Great idea. Did not work.
No, it didn't work.
He waited too long, I think.
Waited too long, and then but the thing is that if he even said this, like if he slowed down even further to try to push George back, then that sacrificed his spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Great idea.
Great idea.
Probably, yeah, a little too late.
Yeah. And it's Carlos was not much help in that battle, unfortunately. He struggled for pace basically all race. Either finished P18 or DNF'd. I'm not really clear on what happened.
Yeah, are we not going to talk about that strategy though of desperately waiting for?
Oh yeah, we're just gonna wait for a safety car. There's 3 laps left. We're waiting for a safety car.
Yeah, and he had so For people who didn't know, he had to pit to put on a different compound of tire per FIA rules. You have to use
Yeah, so
different compound tire.
he started on hards, pitted once for more hards, so he had to use a different compound. And their strategy was, we're just going to hope a safety car comes, and we're not going to box you until that happens.
You can't do that. Like, you can't. You
Well, it's like,
can't.
yeah, you wait for a certain point, but you have to have a point where you're like, okay, we have to now stop and do this.
At this point, this plan is obviously not working, so we need to go to plan B or C or D or F or wherever they were, because they definitely weren't on plan A, let's be
No.
honest.
Well, then it's okay. Like, why did they wait? They called him in like the last lap?
Yeah, and then he pitted and
So
didn't come back out. I think it's a DNF. It has to be.
unclear. I was
I
so
don't
annoyed with the
know.
whole thing. I didn't even follow up on it. I was like,
Yeah.
I know we have a podcast where we share this information with people, but listen, for my own personal mental health, I cannot look into that situation any further.
We had to experience it live. We don't need to go back and research it after.
I was like, I have had enough of that.
Yeah.
I'm done. But race ends. Max secures a historic 19th win of the season. Of his he won 19 out of the 22 races we had.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Insane. It was really sweet. Did you see he kind of got a little emotional at the end? He was like, I feel like I'm going to look back as this being my most successful season.
Yeah.
I was like, but he
Max,
got to do donuts.
we do hate that you keep winning,
Yeah,
but congratulations. It was
congrats.
definitely, like you said, historic. We will talk about it for forever this
Yeah.
season for him.
I
Absolutely.
mean, 50 plus years from now, I think when people are having conversations about best F1 season of all time, this is going to
Yeah.
be in the conversation for sure.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be. 100%.
He got to do donuts. Charles Leclerc finished P2, was not allowed to do donuts.
Yeah. Did they say why? Like, did Ferrari say why?
I think it's because they do testing right after,
Mm.
and so they don't want to like damage stuff. But I'm like, come on,
It's the
let him do
last
it.
race of the season.
Yeah. George finishes P3 because Charles' strategy with Checo's 5-second penalty did not work. So Mercedes secured P2 in the Constructors' Championship. Williams secured their P7. And Fernando Alonso finished P4 in the Drivers' Championship with Charles Leclerc P5.
And Lando, I think, P6?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lando P6, Carlos P7.
Yeah.
So
definitely interesting.
Yeah. What a season.
What a season.
And just to, reminisce a bit, we'll revisit. I actually did make some season predictions that one day we will revisit. I'm not in a place where I'm ready to go back to my delusional self quite yet. I need to decompress a little bit and then we'll go back because I am 99% sure I predicted that Charles Leclerc would be world champion and I can't.
Why would you do that?
I was dumb. I was feeding into all of that stuff that Ferrari was posting on social media about how good their car was going to be. And I was like, oh my God, and Fred Vasseur is our new team principal. It's all going to be perfect.
Next year, they have to go the opposite direction. They were like, oh, we're going to be so good. And now it's like, no, you guys, sorry. It's going to be a tough season for us. And then it's go,
I need this winter break to like destruct my like delusional Ferrari brain, but I know realistically what's really going to happen is I'm just going to get further and further down that rabbit hole and I will emerge in the 2024 season even more of a ridiculous delusional Ferrari fan than I already am. I will reach new heights.
But you're sticking with your team and that's what matters.
Yep. It's fine. Everything's fine. But to look back on this season that we've had, this historical season where we started talking to you all somewhat halfway through it, right?
I think so.
So Jack and I wanted to revisit some of our highlights, some of our fave moments,
Yeah.
and have a few categories here. We'll just kind of spitfire. What's the word that I'm looking
They're
for there?
two different things. I think spitball is the one you're looking for.
We're gonna spitball. We're not gonna spitfire. I don't.
I don't know. Spitfire means, like, something totally different, I think.
What does spitfire mean? Is
I
it
think
bad?
it mean no, no, it's a good thing. I think it means, like, you have, you're like you're a spitfire. Like, I would be like, "Oh, how I would like to describe somebody, "Oh, she's a spitfire." Like,
Okay.
she's a
Yeah.
little
My
maybe
brain's not really
sharp.
operating too sharply today, so I'm definitely not a spitfire today.
No,
But
I don't think that that's what that means. It's like it's your personality. It'd be, like, she's a little spitfire is, like, how people
who
would
would
say.
give me
Like,
a celeb that you think is a spitfire?
um, I can't think of any celebrities right now.
It's like that trend on TikTok where people run up to guys and they go name a woman and they give you names.
Um, maybe, like, Jennifer Lawrence?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
we'll look at Webster Dictionary after this episode, you and I can
We
decide.
cannot clip this part, Jack. We sound so dumb.
I'll add it into the yeah, we will just cut it out. Just
Cut this.
cut it.
I might leave this in for the full episode listeners get to know that we had this
Sound like an
conversation.
idiot. No.
If you're on social, no.
Yeah,
But
definitely not
anyway,
anyway.
back to our spitball of season highlights, starting with your favorite radio moment.
This was hard to narrow down. It was hard for me to narrow down a lot of these. But favorite
What do you
radio
think?
moment, um, I think it's gotta be when George mistook his sweat for rain. Favorite radio moment. Um, my love for George grows every day.
That moment was, I remember that so vividly because he said that on the radio, and I texted my friend Julie because we live text when we're not together during races and quali, and I go, OMG, it's raining. It wasn't. It was not raining. Spreading false information on the web.
That's
Ugh.
hilarious.
Yeah, that was a good one. Mine, the first one that jumped out to me was in Singapore, where Ferrari says to Carlos, Norris point it behind, and he just responds, it's on purpose.
That was on my list too.
Boom.
Yeah, that was incredible. Somebody did an edit, I think, and they were like, "What's a like uh what is it called? Like that's like the man moment." You know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about? And they did that. And it was like, yeah, that is exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Do you have any more?
I do. I have a lot. I want to know what Pierre was screaming in Japan.
Yes.
So not technically a radio moment, but I just want to know.
A lack of radio moment, like a memorable.
Yeah.
We need to know. Yeah.
Also Toto kind of throughout the year to Lewis just saying, "We know the car is bad.
The car is bad.
Just
Please
drive
drive
the
it.
car."
Another good one is I forget which Haas it was, but it was where it's like strat mode 47C, and they just respond, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah.
I agree. That makes
I
no
forgot
sense.
about that one. That was so funny. Oh god, that was so funny.
Yeah. Or the many times that Alonso would just be watching the race as he's racing and be like, good overtake, Lance.
Yeah. So cute. Their relationship is definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, they're like,
They're
I feel
besties.
like it's not, yeah, it almost gives me like older brother, younger brother type of vibes.
Yeah, but that actually like each other
Yeah.
and want to spend time with each
It's
other. They've
cute.
gotten to like that age where, you want to hang out with your siblings.
Like us.
Like us. because we're siblings.
Yeah. I don't think people know that.
That's crazy. That's funny.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it, so it would make sense that they wouldn't
I
know.
introduce every episode, I'm here with my sister.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I don't clip that for social.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Well,
will.
it's another secret that's just between us and the full episode listeners.
The full episode listeners,
So
thank you.
thank you all for being here. Favorite overtake.
Do you want to go first?
I can go. And I know that this is somewhat recency bias, but Leclerc on Checo in Vegas. I screamed.
It was so good. So
So good.
good. So the ones when we said we were going to do this and you put that one out, I could only really think of the ones very recently. And so there's somebody on YouTube. Oh God, I should have written down their name. But they have every overtake in like this season. So I watched it.
How long was that?
It was so long. It was so long. If I'll go back and see if I can look in my history and find it. But I actually am gonna go for Kevin Magnussen when he overtook Logan in Monaco. Very tight track, as we know.
Mhm.
And it was just perfect. He just saw the inside, took it. There was no bumping. He didn't hit the barriers. He didn't hit Logan. It was just so clean and it was beautiful. And so, yes, that would be my overtake of the season, but also with a very big shout out to Fernando Alonso. He's the king of overtakes.
Oh yeah.
The king.
I mean, like, how many times throughout this season was it like Fernando doing an overtake and then like Crofty being like, people don't overtake in this part of the track. This is not
Yeah.
a normal thing.
Well,
And then he just does it like it's nothing.
He kept winning the overtake award, like the monthly overtake
Yeah.
award. He has a lot of those in his house for sure.
Yeah. Shout out
Yeah.
Fernando.
Love you.
Quali moment.
Okay, I have two. I couldn't pick between. I narrowed down a lot, and I had to pick between the two. So, Lewis's pole in Hungary.
That was mine.
Oh, sorry. You should have
I
gone
wonder
first.
if the second one I have in mind is also the one that you're thinking of.
I don't think so, but McLaren's 2-3 in Silverstone.
Oh yeah. That was like, wasn't that the first time or one of the first times that they started being like up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was spectacular. And they had the chromish car, and they had the really cool race suits, and it was oh my god, it was. And Lando had his full chrome helmet.
Mm-hmm.
It was sick, and I love that race. That's probably my favorite race.
Of the year.
Nah, I don't know about that actually.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
My other one that I was thinking was for just the pure drama of it when Liam Lawson knocked Max out of quali.
Oh yes,
Like
yes,
that was crazy.
that was crazy. Oh yeah. Oh, and the memes that came out of that were so funny.
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long season. A lot has
Been a long
happened.
season. I just remember the end. My brain can't comprehend all of it.
I'm like, wait, I don't remember anything before like Mexico. It's just all gone. But yeah, great quali moment. All great quali moments. We had some solid qualies this year.
Yeah, qualies were fun this year. Love a quali.
Race moment. Favorite race moment of the year.
I had a few.
Okay.
Per usual. But I'm gonna go with, you had mentioned one of mine that I had already said, which was the Carlos keeping Lando in DRS in Singapore. I'm actually gonna go with the Carlos and Charles being their own strategy team in Singapore and in Abu Dhabi. So kind of two race moments and kind of throughout the season. Yeah. But specifically, those are the two ones that come to mind.
Love it. Yeah. My first one that came to mind was just because it, like, again, just the pure chaos and just like euphoria of it was Lando leading in Silverstone.
Oh, yeah. I did also have Lando leading, after turn 1 in Austin.
Mhm.
That was my other one.
Whenever we had, like, a non-Red Bull race leader, it was very exciting.
Yeah, even if it
So
was for a
to
little
never
while.
Yeah.
And also when Oscar led.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And where was that, Spa?
I don't remember. I think it was, like, in a sprint, which obviously he did lead in it because he won a sprint.
But
Um,
yeah, he led in a sprint where he didn't win,
where he
though.
didn't win,
He
and
got
he in the interviews after, he was saying, "It's not a matter of if they're gonna pass you, it's a matter of when it's Max Verstappen in that Red Bull."
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Favorite interview moment?
Okay, this one was hard.
This one, I came up with this one and then was like, I forget every interview that's happened all year.
So, um, I went with, Oscar learning that he was not 3rd in
Oh
in
god.
Qatar. Was it Qatar? I think it was Qatar.
Oh
When it
god.
was George thought Lando, and then Lando got his track limits, and so Oscar went up to do the interview, and then in mid-interview, I think it was Naomi was interviewing him. Love
I
her.
can't believe they told him while he was being interviewed.
I
That was
know.
so diabolical.
She was like, "I'm hearing something about track limits. Did you know you're being investigated?" And he goes, "No idea." And then he won the sprint,
Mhm.
and he's being interviewed, and whoever was interviewing him then said something about, "I'm being told," and his face just fell.
Yeah. Oh my
But
god.
he still won, but it was just very, very funny.
That
Very
was
chaotic.
what
Yeah,
an experience that was.
that was fun.
I went for my number one. Do you remember earlier in the season, I forget which race it was at, where Fernando just kept smelling the flowers and, like, putting his face in the flowers?
That was in the next category of mine.
Oh, observation.
There are things, in life where they will make you laugh cry just by thinking about it. Like, why would you just do that? Well, like,
He also
I
it wasn't
had
like
to
a
stop thinking
normal,
about it.
like it was like a normal, like, nice
No, his
flower. It was like,
face
let me stick my whole head in this flower,
was
like,
so
fully on camera.
oh, oh my
So
god,
good.
so funny. And he did a magazine shoot recently, and he had flowers in them.
I
Very
love it.
funny. He he's got a sense of humor.
I love
That's for
it.
sure.
Um, and our last one, off-track activities, which is open-ended. This could be what they're doing in interviews, I guess. This could be press conferences. This could be PR, them in their personal lives. Just
Yeah.
saves.
Um, I think we have to do an honorary one, which is I have it right next to me. Valtteri's calendar.
Yes. Yes, we both
Um,
have it.
we both have it. We both bought it. If you haven't gotten one yet, you should. It's not expensive. It was
No?
not expensive at all. It goes towards cancer research, and then I believe he's actually going to be doing a giveaway of a signed one. So if you go on his Instagram, we'll repost it too. So if you follow us on socials, we'll repost it, and you can find it. And you can do everything for the giveaway, and you can get it signed Valtteri Boat ass calendar.
So
So yeah,
good.
honorary mention of that for sure. And then I so Fernando smelling the flowers was
Mhm.
mine. I'll just pick another one. I think I'll have to do Daniel just being in his reserve driver era, and
Mhm.
he was doing the interviews with Max and Checo, and two specifically come to mind. One is when they were racing the electric boats in Monaco, and then I think in Miami when he was racing, it was like a mini boat thing
Mhm.
with Yuki. Very funny, very 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 funny.
He
Loved it.
was he was, like, living his best life in his reserve driver era. He was just, like, kinda having
Yeah.
fun. He was going on, what did he going on, like, The Tonight Show. He was just living it up.
Yeah. He knew he was just chilling. He was getting back to himself, and I love it. Love that he's back on the track with AlphaTauri
Mhm.
and will be on there next year. Yeah, I loved his reserve era.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I went for Alex Albon's CeraVe brand deal.
Such a good answer.
Which if you haven't seen, just cinematic treasure, masterpiece. So good. That, but if I even want to zoom that out, just like any of Alex Albon's like brandy stuff he's done, because he
Yeah.
also launched like a clothing line
Mm-hmm.
and did a really hilarious promo video for that with all of his pets.
It was so funny. So funny. I loved that. I will also have to say Max gets an honorary mention for me too. His Checo impression is very funny.
Oh yeah. Max in like every Red Bull marketing or whatever video that they made him do this year, he's been one every time they quiz him, he's right about everything.
Yeah.
And two, just I think he just seems much more fun. It's almost it reminds me of the Max of old when he was with Daniel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the most recent one where they were guessing radios. Got them all right.
No, I didn't see that.
Was wearing his hat sideways. I was like, I love this. I love this. This
Wearing his
is
hat sideways.
I am happy with this being my world champion. This is an icon right here.
Two other ones I do want to mention, and then we can close out. F1 Dumois crossover.
Yeah. I
Crazy,
bet you there's gonna
wild.
be more.
There's
As the
got to be
sport
more.
grows, like
Yeah,
next year, I bet you there will be more. I can't wait. I can't wait to see
it's
what they
gonna
come
be.
up with next.
Yeah. Carlos is not a dad, at least as far as we know.
Yeah.
And then George, his hair change.
Yeah. Oh, underappreciated.
Underappreciated. It was just thrusted upon us, and it has done wonders for the way that I think about him.
He's still my enemy for what he did in Coda Turn 1 2022. But yeah, that was a great call.
Whoever
Throwing
did
out that
that,
hair gel. Great
yeah,
call.
it just
Oh,
he looks more Prince Charming, actually.
another, how could we forget honorary mention? George's intro graphic.
Oh my god! This feels like a sin that we forgot this. Oh
I'm gonna miss it so
no!
much.
I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to
miss
miss
it
it
so
so much.
much.
I hope he does
And
something equally hilarious and embarrassing next year.
I hope they make everybody do something like that. You know, we talked about that.
Mhm.
I can't remember what episode we talked about it,
We were
but
pitching new rules.
yeah. Oh yeah, that was yeah, that's what it was. And they just need to it was so funny. So funny.
I'll miss it.
I'm excited. I I will miss that intro video for sure. Also, can we just give a shout out to Lando? Sassy Pants Lando Norris.
Oh yeah, for what?
I had him down and I have quotes. When he was told that he got driver of the day one time, he's gotten a lot of driver of the days. But one time he said, "Oh yeah, it's almost as good as winning." in
Jesus.
a in a YouTube video interview that he did with Oscar, they were asked if astrology was a red flag, and he said no. He put up it was a green flag, and then he goes, "Oh my god, I'm a Scorpio. Let me tell you all about it." He was definitely joking, I think, but it's definitely
He's just like me for real.
yeah. Um, and then finally was talking in the pen after, and the interviewer said, "Great job, blah blah blah," and he goes, "Yeah, it was great." And she goes, "You seem upset," and he goes, "Yeah, well, that was sarcastic."
Lando.
Landy Sassy Pants Norris.
He is leading the sassy man apocalypse.
There's a one of my favorite TikToks that I'll watch when I'm sad is a compilation of I've definitely reposted it on the Family One podcast TikTok account. but it's Lando Norris being unhinged and not media trained for like 2 minutes.
I think they should all have less media training. It's way more fun when they're insane.
Or drop the Easter eggs like Lewis did. He's just drinking his tequila that wasn't
Yeah.
announced, and he goes, "God, that's so good." We're like, Lewis,
Marketing genius. Loved it.
boy.
Before we go, I did mention this to you before we started recording.
Oh yeah.
I have surprise dirty air for you, which I believe is surprise just because I don't believe that you've seen this yet.
Okay.
Which is an update. Let me get my dirty
Your
air hands
evil.
out.
Yeah, because we got the tinfoil hat.
Yeah,
No, it's
tinfoil
the dirty
hat. This is tinfoil hat time. This is dirty air.
air. Okay.
It's like head, shoulders, knees, and toes. An update on Mr. Alex Pillow.
No. Wait. Really? No, I haven't
Yes,
seen this.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, if you are just catching up to this situation, Alex Pillow is an IndyCar driver, won the championship in IndyCar this past year. Lots and lots. This is a long story, which I've done an explainer on my TikTok. I can repost or add that, or I can do another one on the Formula One as well.
Yeah.
But there was lots of drama over a year ago about his contract because he was driving with his team, Chip Ganassi, and then it came out that McLaren was going to sign him, and then they ended up keeping him at Chip Ganassi. It was all this legal stuff, but then it was like, oh, but he's clearly signed with McLaren for 2024 and beyond. That was up until mid this season when Zach Brown discovered that that was not the case and that Alex Pillow would not be honoring this contract that he had, and he would actually be staying with Chip Ganassi Racing. This was a breach of contract. So the last we had heard was McLaren was suing Alex Pillow, and we'd gotten the number that they were suing him for, which was $22 million.
Jesus Christ.
Bam. And the update that I have for you, because throughout all of this, you're like, what happened? Because there was this contract, and like logical adult people know that you can't just like sign a contract and not do it.
Yeah.
So we've all just been sitting here waiting for this explanation. Well, we have it. And I fear it is not what I was hoping for. His explanation, or his lawyers, say that signing with McLaren revolved around Pillow racing in Formula One. It was when Pillow, quote, lost trust and confidence that McLaren genuinely intended to support his ambition to race in F1 that he decided to breach his contract and sign with Chip Ganassi Racing again. So he just was like, JK.
I wonder then, like, what was he told? What was he told behind the scenes?
This does get into like, this then gets into a little bit of a tinfoil hat time where it's like, when did, because all of this originated, this original Alex Pillow McLaren stuff originated in 2022. What is the timeline of these conversations that they were having with Alex Pillow and the conversations they were having with Oscar Piastri?
Yeah.
Were they maybe promising him things without having, because they hadn't secured Oscar yet, or them being like, we don't know if we're going to keep Oscar?
Yeah. It could just be that latter bit, right? Of we don't know, he's a rookie. We have no idea how he's going to perform. You race with us, you're a reserve driver. We trust you, I guess, to like some extent. And like, I would love to know what he was promised. That's kind of where my conspiracy is a little bit going of,
because
there's got to be.
How much were you promised and on what timeline, and what changed beyond them announcing a contract extension for Oscar that would result in you just breaking a contract? And now the arbitration and the dispute now, because he's just admitted that he broke the contract, is now like, how much money does he owe them?
Yeah.
$22 million is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Do IndyCar drivers make that much?
No, no, I mean, he's well paid for sure. I think
Yeah,
his
because he's got
signing,
his sponsors and stuff.
yeah. And I think his signing bonus, which they paid him like in advance, was like $400,000. Lots of money. But he's not making so much money to the point that this $22 million is like he can just kind of handle that. Like
Yeah,
if it ends up being like $22 million, he will be paying that off for the rest of his career. Like
yeah,
they have to work out a deal where like they get like a certain amount of his winnings or something like that.
yeah. Because it's not like a Max or a Lewis that's going through this, that
Yeah.
it wouldn't really affect them. I mean, it would be a huge
Yeah.
chunk of their yearly salary, but granted, it would be just a chunk
A
of their
chunk of their
yearly
yearly
salary.
salary.
Like
Yeah.
Max, I think, is 55 million a year.
Yeah.
Insane amount of money. It kind of goes back to, those conversations we had, when Kevin Magnuson was bringing up, we're not
Yeah.
being paid the same level of Charles and Max and Lewis. If we get fined or something happens, our career is gone.
Yeah.
So that is also kind of where I'm like, if they are going to be very strict business people and stick to the rules of their contract and make him pay it out fully, is that like the
Yeah.
end?
Yeah. I mean,
Again,
and it opens up so
catastrophizing. We'll
much.
talk about it
Yeah.
with the therapist.
Yeah. I mean, this opens up so much. This whole
Yeah.
situation is a huge mess. I don't think we'll know. I don't even know if when they reach an agreement, we'll know like the terms of that or the terms of the payment or anything. Um, yeah, it's I don't I would I'm not unhappy that I am not one of Alex Pillow's lawyers right now. I'm happy I'm not one of his lawyers right now.
Yeah, same. This, we were talking about in our Vegas episode, we need to get a lawyer on. We need to get a lawyer on to talk about this.
Yeah. If you are a lawyer and you're a listener and you want to come on,
Yeah.
let us know
Yeah. We want to know what you think in your legal opinion.
about several things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So I will keep you updated on this Alex Pillow thing. I mean, I think this is like the first news we've gotten in a few months, so it's obviously it's like in the courts and stuff. It's going to take a while, but anyway, that's all we have for you today.
It was a lot, but thank
It
you
was a lot.
for sticking
Uh,
around.
yeah, we will talk to you next week. We will continue to do episodes even though there's no racing. We'll get through this together, everybody. So we'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Love you. Bye.